How about anybody else that shared some experiences, whether it was some personal, trauma that happened to you, first person, or anything that might have happened as you were just kind of a bystander, but you saw some things. Have these sessions been able to be therapeutic for you and help you in understanding and gaining empathy and understanding, kind of for the perspective that the officers are coming from, or to understand why things happen the way they did? If anybody else wants to share, I'm going to leave space right now.
I mean, it's been a little therapeutic because I had an experience where my parents were accused of being thieves, or where like they were accused of being thieves, or like stealing items from this house that we went over to, for was like invited to, um, and they went through the whole process, and I wasn't there obviously because I wasn't accused of anything, and I don't think I could be interrogated, but I was very small. But the thing is that I was scared, but it also shines a light that you guys are fair, and they weren't charged with anything, but you guys are fair. You guys go through the whole process, and you guys aren't like trying to like bring us down, or like with through race or like economic status or anything. So I always know that police are very good people, or like they're trying to do good things, and you guys have only affirmed that. So thank you so much.
Hey, Tyler, I just want to say, those comments right there alone, man, that just touched me at the heart right there. That's fantastic. And that's what we're looking for right there. And we want to continue this conversation, and we want to, you're talking about support groups. Let's continue to talk about that. Let's see if we can't continue to get together via the web or Zoom or whatever it's going to be, and continue some of these conversations. I mean, we can't stop learning. I mean, just because we stop talking today or tomorrow doesn't mean we stop learning. And yes, and I come from a community where, I've been stopped by the police before when I was much younger, my parents have and stuff. So I understand that. And the last thing I want is for anyone to have to feel that fear, that police are out to get them. So I'm so happy that we are making an impact here. And all your stories are great so far. Just please keep coming with them. And I know Ryan will probably end up saying the same thing. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to speak for Ryan, but I mean, this is very heartwarming for the entire community, to see that, hey, we are doing something good here, and it's actually making an impact for you. So let's keep this going. Let's keep the momentum on.
Yeah, I will. That hits it right there, Phil. I think this is equally as therapeutic for the officers involved as well. Throughout our jobs, we know that we have the potential, and we have caused trauma to others. And I'm not immune to thinking that it's all good. But we also experience a lot of trauma ourselves. And I don't think as officers, we're good at really hiding that, because we have to be professionals and we have a job to do. But there are times where we break down, and we cry, and we second guess what we're doing for a career. And we need somebody's shoulder to lean on, just like the youth do. So this is equally as therapeutic as me, even if it's tough love. I realize that not every situation that everybody on this panel has had is as good, but it really touches my heart as well to hear about the times where we are doing good and how we can do better. I know I've had this conversation with Jenny, because I know she's listening. I'll tell you why I get involved with organizations like PAL, because they fill up my tank. There's so many things in law enforcement that can drain you as a person. There's so many bad things, being the bearer of bad news, seeing really horrible things. And that's easy to just deal with negativity all day long. And it's organizations like PAL that fill up my tank, that give me hope and give me a reason to keep going on, I guess you could say, in my career. So keep it coming. This is as equally as therapeutic for us as it is for our youth here.
Thank you for sharing that, Phil. And, Ryan, I agree with you. I remember Jenny asked me, I don't know, Jenny, it's probably 3-4 years ago, to be a mentor, maybe 2-3 years ago, at a Heritage. And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to do it. And I was in there with officers and other community members, but several officers. And, you could see these, there were some youth in there that have had some challenges, had some struggles, had some run-ins with law enforcement and had some challenges. But I think the thing that just a lack of better words sucks about what happens between BIPOC, people of color, and the law enforcement is just there's a lack of closeness. If there's not proximity, it's hard to have understanding. It's hard to have empathy. It's hard to, understand where folks are coming from and their perspective in life. And, it's good to hear, that you being vulnerable. And you guys, you cry just like, an accountant cries, a teacher. And we all have those human experiences. So I think we got to keep that coming and just holding each other accountable for the things we see that need to be changed. So I've actually privately messaged a couple of young folks. They haven't responded. They might not be on the chat. That's fine. But I want to throw it out there. Alexis, Olivia, Paulina, Luis, Isradio, who else? Sam. These are, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I kind of am. For folks that want to share any of their experiences or any solutions that you might that you've been thinking about over these last couple of sessions, anything you want to share, I'm going to leave space for y'all to share.
So I did have a question. I know Elvia had brought up, or she mentioned body cams. I just wanted to know, what are police biggest concerns regarding body cams? I know in some communities there's some pushback against it. Others, they're willing to try it out. And what do you think an effective body cam program would look like, initiating it into different police, different police forces?
Well, I can tell you this. I'm all for body cams. And I tell you, the county, we have great leadership here through the county council and through the city, the mayors, the sheriff, and the Chief McElvain. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to speak for Vancouver Police Department, but we have been looking into them. And, the body cams are total transparency. We want you to see what we see as things are happening, as they happen to us. There's nothing to hide. I mean, there's nothing there to hide. A lot of the deputies that we have spoken to before, especially after the recent events that have happened and have gotten their opinions on body cams, they're all in favor of them. Because if you're doing nothing wrong, it has nothing to hide, And so we're saying, yeah, give us body cams. So right now it's just a matter of finding, a company that you might like to do service with and stuff, contract with, and what the cost of body cams are going to be. But we also have to understand, though, before we do this, there's so many things behind the scene that we have to develop, policy for them, regulations. People have to have rules. I mean, there's rules in society, and we have a lot of rules where we are. But I'll tell you, the Clark County Sheriff's Office, and for what I know of Vancouver Police Department, are in favor of body cams, and we're not trying to hide or dismiss anything. We want you to see what we see. We want these to be available for reports and investigations and whatnot. We want to show you what we're doing. So that's part of integrity. The integrity part of us to show you that we're doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Phil said there. Although I can't speak on behalf of my entire agency. There are a number of people that I've spoken to in my agency who are all for body cams. We currently have about 600 plus in-car camera systems. And in-car camera systems are great, but they stay in the car. And they have their limitations. Body cams have their limitations as well. They don't take very good video from behind the wheel of a car, because really all you can see is the top half of a steering wheel up here. And then you can't see what's going on. But there are so many people in my agency that are advocating for body cams. I have yet to speak to a police officer here locally or even across the state that does not want to have a body cam. I think the biggest thing right now is cost. They are incredibly expensive, and there is not only the cost of the camera itself, but maintaining all the video and what we call the back office, because you got to save it somewhere. Public disclosure, how you redact that video. So let's say Tyler or Elvia want a copy of a video that of me, but there were some other people involved that don't want to have their faces shown. So now you have to black out those faces. Maybe you have to mute pieces of audio that aren't subject to public disclosure, like people's personal information. So there's a lot of technological challenges, and that all costs money, and you got to have good policies. I think a lot of agencies have in-car camera systems, so they have good policy there. They just might have to modify it a little bit, but they are incredibly expensive. I recently, it was last year, I got to take a tour of a vendor that is heavily involved in body camera and other police technologies, and it was really, really cool to see. These cameras are smart cameras. So let's say Phil has a camera on and he's in trouble, he's in a fight, and I come up and now I forgot to activate my body camera because I have to activate it, right? Well, the system that I saw automatically activates my camera if it senses another camera within range that has been activated. So they're really smart. So they really take, I guess you could say, those human decisions out of it, which, look, I would love to activate my camera all the time, but I'll tell you right now, I'm probably going to forget from time to time. Just I'm human and I'm prone to forgetting things. But this sorts of technology that's on the horizon for police body cameras, I think really is really promising. And I think it makes, I think it eases a lot of the concerns for people that have to wear them. But I'd love to have one. And there's many in my agency that would love to have one. And, you know, our agency, just like Phil's, is evaluating that closely and looking for a way to pay for it.
Thank you for that, Paulina. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that helps kind of like clear up some different concerns or like what it would look like if the different departments were able to initiate it. I do understand that it does come down to cost and that it does cost a lot of money. It's if everyone started wearing them, I do know that that'd be a big cost. I was just wondering if there were any concerns regarding them, because I do know in a lot of different communities, maybe not ours, but in a lot of different communities, there is some pushback against them.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody got anything they want to add to what Paulina asked about body cams specifically? Anybody got anything on that? Okay, so I'm gonna throw some names out there again. I'd love for any of y'all to share. So Alexis, Olivia, Isidro. I am totally probably mispronouncing your name, brother, and I've been doing that every session. Please correct me. I apologize. Luis, Sam, any of y'all have something you want to share?
I can go ahead and go. I'm just wondering, in what kind of nature do you like? What kind of stuff do you want us to share?
Yeah, I think, Luis, the biggest thing is, whatever you want to share, right? So like if you have something on your heart, like some of the other folks, youth have shared about their experiences or questions that they have or solutions, right? So this can be an opportunity to share an experience that you've had, opportunity to share ask any questions, whether it's your fellow peers you want to ask questions to, or it's the officers, or an opportunity to share some solutions to some problems and challenges that you've seen.
So I'll go ahead and share one of my, I guess, encounters with police force. I have two of them. My very first one was when I was very young. I was 16, and I had been pulled over for the first time. And I had just recently got my license, and I was new to driving. And I was so nervous because I felt like okay, I'm going to get a ticket. My insurance rate is going to go up. I'm like, I made a mistake. And now this police officer is going to get me, and then my parents are going to be mad. It's going to turn into a whole thing. But what I appreciated from that was that the police officer that I had come into encounter with was very nice. He was very honest with me. He was very firm. And, at that point, my biggest fear was getting in trouble. It wasn't that I was fearful for my life in any sense. I was just a kid. But what I did appreciate is that the officer was very firm with me and, was made sure that everything was straightforward. And I really like that because in that point, I'm there like in fear, like wondering like, oh, no, I'm going to get a big ticket, But what I did appreciate really was that the cop was firm with me and made me understand that, the rule that I broke was there and was honestly helped me to notice that, I had to be in the right place at the right time, and stuff like that. And then my second encounter with them was when I had my accident. I had a crash, and then a car crashed into me. But at that point, I didn't really appreciate, because we're mid-pandemic, is that their social distancing guidelines, maybe, I'm not quite too sure, didn't allow them to really help us. Their main focus was just to sort of worry about the road, but not really on us and what was going on with us after the accident. And then one thing that I did notice is that in prior accidents, most of the time they do take a police report, but this time they didn't. It encourages us to report the accident online. And I sort of didn't appreciate that because, at that point I'm in pain. I'm worrying about other things, I'm worrying about my passenger. I'm worrying about getting the car out of the road. And then they go and say, okay, but can you report this online? And I'm like, well, sort of hard to expect that out of me after I've been in an accident. And so, my interaction with the law enforcement, is it's 50-50, but I do realize that, that may have not been the individual officer's fault, but it would be, state guidelines that exist that would, push them to have to report the accident online. But that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Luis, for sharing that. I appreciate that. Anybody, the officers or anything have anything they want to say on that? I know that, during, COVID and the pandemic, the processes are a little bit different. Do you guys want to add any perspective to that?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. Generally, I'm telling you the policy of my agency. If an officer shows up, they will usually complete the report unless there's some other extenuating circumstance in place. I know COVID restrictions have kind of changed the way we've done a little bit of business. We've tried to maintain a lot of distance from people, but in my agency, if an officer arrives on scene or contacts you in person, then we will complete that report on your behalf, especially if you're in a hospital or something like that. There are some times where we get overwhelmed with emergency calls, and then we have to tell you, hey, you got to do this yourself online. I don't think it should be that way, but I also understand that we have to triage the calls that we get. There are times where we have too many calls and not enough officers, and there are some things, some paperwork issues that we leave up to the people involved at times. I don't think it's ideal, but I also understand we have staffing limitations, and we don't always know what sorts of calls we're going to get involved in. So in my agency, generally, if an officer shows up, they're going to complete that report on your behalf for you.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that also, the same way with our agency. If there is an accident, first of all, we're concerned about your health, firstly, and it's not always about trying to lay infractions on people, or as people would call it, a ticket, but it's an infraction. During an accident, first of all, we want to make sure that you're healthy. You don't need medical attention. Also, too, we're there to help facilitate the exchange of information. You just been through a pretty traumatic event there. Your car's hit. I don't know if it's able to run or not. We'll get you a tow. But 9 times out of 10, we do the report for you. We do a sector report, which you can get. And you also have the case numbers for the report. So we're trying to make it easier. And that way, when you contact your insurance company, they don't have to go back. They can just get the sector report, or whatever reports are attached to it. So whatever happened in that instance, I don't know. But I'm just telling you from our perspective, we do our best to try to facilitate helping you out during this moment of need, because that is a huge moment of need right there.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate your guys' perspective. I might have been that, 1 time out of 10, because what I did notice is that, he asked us if we were okay, but his main concern was what towing company do you prefer? How can we get this towed out of here? And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm worrying about my personal health, my passenger's personal health, getting the right insurance information. And they did facilitate that, but their main concern was, their advice was, can you complete this police report on this website, do this? And I was like, okay, yeah, but I'll do that once after this infraction can move out of the roadway. But I do appreciate that you guys shared your perspective.
Right on. Thank you for that, y'all. Appreciate that dialogue and that conversation.